Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today with PublishDrive, Newsletter Success with Bad Evan. I'm Danica Favorite, the community manager at PublishDrive, and some of you are like, where is her camera? Why don't we see her? I don't know. I'm having camera trouble, so I appreciate all of you for your patience as we tried to figure it out. Still not sure what's going on, so you'll just hear my voice.
Danica, just lost your voice right when you said hear my voice. Danica's having some technical issues right now. She's there in the black box. We just can't hear or see her. How's everybody doing today? Well, we're waiting for Danica to come back. Comment in the chat. I see a lot of people from different places: Costa Rica, Lebanon, Florida, Portugal, South Africa, Chile, Minnesota. Southern California. Well, I'm in Indiana and it's getting ready to start snowing here in a little bit. So I would rather be in Southern California or Chile or Costa Rica or Florida or Milan, Italy, just basically anywhere but here. Well, I think she's coming back soon, hopefully. Let me ask some primer questions for you guys. How many of you are published authors? Just throw up a yes in the chat.
Okay, I'm back, I think. Yes. So I apologize, everyone. My internet completely went out. I have zero internet at my house right now, which is crazy. So I'm on my phone. Thank goodness for technology and for having the cell phone. We're going to go ahead and start over. Thank you all for your patience. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Danica Favorite. I am the community manager at PublishDrive. And I am here today with our guest, Bad Evan, who is a great friend of mine. He is here as someone who has published many books. He's been in the publishing industry for quite some time.
Sure. So I started my first publishing company when I was in high school in 1998. It was, I wanted to have a place where I could publish my own kind of crazy writing. I had sent.
Evan, I don't think people can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
No.
Just me?
Oh, okay. Someone else can hear you. They can hear you now. Okay, so we're good.
Okay. I had, when I was younger, I had the opportunity to do some contract or ghostwriting for a popular romance company in the 90s. They would pay you a couple $100 and they'd give you all the specs. And it was great. There wasn't the internet really. We weren't emailing back and forth. It was phone calls and packages in the mail. So I would literally get my manuscript back with notes and red lines. It was a fun process, and I discovered through that I really enjoyed writing. I wrote a couple of books on my own and sent them off to publishers, and they sent me really friendly, nice, get lost kid rejection letters. And I said, but I feel like people would like to read these. And so I started my own publishing business and while I was in high school. And that company ran until the great market crash of 2008. And I restarted around 2015, started a new company. And have been rocking and rolling ever since. We publish on average about 10 to 15 books per month. I'm definitely in the high six figures as a published author. And I have currently 22 pen names that I write. And since 2015, we're like approaching the 430 something published books level. So, yeah.
I love
And
that. I think that's really great because even though you're a published author, you technically have a publishing company. And I think this is a very useful topic for anyone who is an author, whether that's just a couple books or one book or multiple books, or people who are running publishing companies to be able to say, okay, here are some actionable things that, you're doing this and you've been running a successful company for a long time. So I really wanted to get you on here just to share with people how they can maximize their sales and get their books out there. And you were telling me, well, let's talk about newsletters and some newsletter tips. And I would love to hear what you think is the role of a newsletter in the publishing world and for authors and publishers to get the news out about their books.
so I think that a newsletter is actually probably one of the greatest tools that an author has to drive sales. It's better than TikTok. It's better than Instagram. It's better than everything else. And the reason for that is because you own your newsletter. You don't own your TikTok profile. You don't own Instagram. You don't own Booksby or Booksprout or Book Reader, even Goodreads. None of those platforms where you're marketing do you own. You can't guarantee that you're going to be able to use that platform tomorrow morning. You might be booted, or their algorithm can completely change, or what have you. But a newsletter, you own. You can even take your newsletter subscribers and take it to another email provider if you need or want to. So it's something that gives you stability. But the thing that I see more often than not, and what I really want to talk to folks about and break this down into segments and steps, is I've subscribed to over periods of time hundreds of author and publishing company newsletters because I want to steal what works for them and avoid the things that don't. And I see probably 95% of newsletters are garbage, just absolute garbage. And so, and it's not because their content isn't written well, they're not putting in good graphics. It's not because of that. It's because they're missing a fundamental reason for having the newsletter, which
I,
is to
I love this. I think this is really kind of mind blowing to hear, oh, 95% is garbage, but you're right. I don't open most newsletters. So like, yeah, I want to hear this big secret.
it's a newsletter is about community building. It's not about selling your book. It's not about marketing your book. I can tell you that the pen name that one of the pen names that I have that sends the most amount of newsletters is 2 newsletters per week to subscribers, which is a pretty decent amount. So they get 2 newsletters a week. Over the course of the year, I have given them the link to purchase the book as a not just like a I have a link section in the newsletter, but like an actual marketing piece to go and buy the book over the course of the year, maybe 4 times. That's
Wow.
it. And they're getting it over 100 per year, and they get maybe 4 actual marketing pieces where I'm actually saying, hey, the book is here, go buy it today. And it's typically only when there's a sale or some promo or something that's happening, I'll add that in there. It's not about hitting them over the head to go buy the book. It's about building engagement and community with them so that they're going to buy the book. If they're opening your emails and they're reading your emails, you don't have to tell them to go buy my book. They're going to go buy it. They're your fan. They like you. Instead, what you're doing is saying, please talk about me and this book or the things that you like about this series or these characters on your social channels. Go be a brand ambassador for me, but you're doing it without ever saying any of those words.
Nice. I like that because I think a lot of the advice that I've heard is make sure you buy links, tell everyone to buy. And I'll be very honest, I really hate that hard sell method. I really hate people in my face all the time trying to sell to me. And so I love the fact that you are, instead of trying to get people to buy, you're trying to build a community. And I just want to address a couple comments in the comment section first. First of all, yes, Bad Evan is his real name that he goes by publicly when he makes public appearances. Because he's got multiple pen names and things like that, he prefers to keep the name and his name's private. So we respect that privacy. We call him Bad Evan. And yes, there will be a recording. Everyone who's registered will get a recording. And then I also will be posting this on YouTube here sometime next week. So if you have to bow out or something like that, don't worry, you will be able to watch the replay. Evan, you talk about this building community and you talk about it in terms of not trying to sell the book and you really want to build the community. How do you do that? How do you build that community with a newsletter?
So let's talk about let's talk about engagement once we get somebody on the newsletter, and then we'll talk about how to get people to the
Perfect.
newsletter. Let's focus first about keeping them engaged in the newsletter ecosystem, if you will. The first thing is whenever somebody subscribes, okay, hopefully you've got a magnet or bonus scene or, character artwork or something that you're doing. I personally have multiples of those set up through like BookFunnel and things like that per pen name. So depending on where you enter the system, you're getting something different. So if like the pen name that I was talking about has multiple series. So if you're coming in on the third series, you're going to get something related to that series. And they're segmented in my newsletter list. So I know where you came in at as well. But when you come in, you get here's your ebook, here's your content that you're getting. That's a standard system email, right? That happens instantaneously when you join the newsletter. I then have a workflow, which every email system has this process. It's like 132 minutes or something like that. So it doesn't look machined. You get a hey, welcome. Thanks for coming. And I'm just going to use my name, Bad Evan. Thanks for joining my newsletter. I hope you really enjoy this content. And then I ask them questions in that welcome. Like, how did you find, this book? How did you get here? Depending on the pen name and what the genre is, I have a lot of female pen names, not female. And one of the things I'll ask is, what's your favorite crochet pattern? Something that has, it's kind of off the wall, but I know that a lot of my readers, and for that particular pen name, crochet and knit. I don't know much about knitting.
Name, do your books have crocheting and knitting in them?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Not even a little bit.
That's really good to know though, because like I'm thinking, well, I don't necessarily have any knitting or crocheting in my books, but it doesn't matter from what you're saying.
It's connecting with the audience. Again, it's not about the book. It's not about your books or your series. It's about connecting with that author or that reader with you so that they see you. And so I know a little bit about crocheting because my mom crocheted and I tried like a few times. So like if somebody says something to me, I can at least understand it a little bit. So I'll ask things like that. And you get responses, reply back to this email. But so you have this workflow where it's welcome, you get the thing, thanks for subscribing, but this becomes seems more personalized message back. I don't always respond back to email messages, but I do read everything. I do read stuff on Instagram and TikTok, but I don't always have the opportunity to respond because there's only so many minutes in every hour. So that's one thing, is not just using a standard system welcome, but doing something unique and personalized that's likely going to hit the boxes for your target market. So if you know who your target market is, and hopefully you do before you start promoting, some rough ideas about things. I'm willing to bet that if my reader base is or my target reader base is between the age of 30 and 48, female, US, I am willing to bet that they have crocheted in their life, or at least attempted to. There's stuff where I'll ask about, like, I'll say, hey, I just had, received a sourdough starter or something like that. And so I'll put that in there. Have you ever made sourdough bread? Were you able to keep your starter alive for more than a month? Type of thing.
I love that. I think that's really good because you're right. It's very personal and connective. And so far, you're not telling me anything about your book. At what point do you
Thing.
tell them about your books?
So in the newsletter itself, when you actually get the newsletter, there will always be towards the bottom of the newsletter that has a section that says, current releases, or click here to see all of my books, find them on whatever platform you want. So I do have a follow me kind of button, and I use one of the link tree link displays, and it shows, like, in the way I have mine set up is by series or individual books. So when you click on series 1, it takes you to where all the places where it's available are at, things like that. And then I have all my social links embedded in there as well. But I keep that one spot. I don't have a bunch of links that are, buy my book on Amazon, get it on Audible, Apple Books, or find it in your local bookstore, anything like that. I don't bombard my newsletter with a bunch of those. I have one link, and it's, click here to find where you can buy or follow. And it's always at the bottom. My goal is not to sell you the book. If you go into the mindset of communicating with your subscribers that that your ultimate goal is to sell them a book, then everything that you do in that newsletter is going to be shifted, slanted, tainted with them buying a book. So I approach every newsletter as I'm having communications with my friends. This is a friendly letter, and they're going to see the link. They're going to do these things. Now, I do talk about my writing. So I break my newsletter up into sections. The top of it is always like, for those of you who were subscribing to me, which you can't, but because I'm not going to give you a name, but, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, it's getting ready to start snowing here in Indiana. That was the top of my newsletter this morning. Was I really don't want to drag out the salt bucket. It's just too heavy. I wish there was a hot young neighbor guy who could come around and salt my stairs, and maybe other things too. That was, and I don't have a book about, a young hot guy coming and plowing my sidewalk and salting my stairs, but it's something relevant that's happening, right now. And so that's in there. And so that's always the top, is something current that's going on in my world with me, or the world that I've created for the pen name. That's always the top. And then I ask a question. I'm not asking for a reply. It's just kind of like a thought experiment question. Like, should I give up the snow for Boca Raton? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I like that. Again, I think that it's really that personal touch, and it's giving something for people to connect with and get them connected to you and to then wanting to read more of your books. So I know that you said, obviously we know that you are not sharing your pen names and things like that. Do you have any examples of where people could check out seeing this in action, of maybe an example of what that would look like?
Who has really good TikTok videos? If you get away from the parts where she's doing the in the warehouse stuffing books, excluding those, but her newsletter is actually really good because she's really tuned into her readers, is Willow Winters. So she does really well with hers. It's hard for me to put on the spot, like thinking about who's a good that's not me, because I'm the best.
Yeah, Carrie, it was Willow Winters.
Willow
Willow
Winters.
like the tree, and Winters like the season with an S.
She's the one that sparks right off the top of my head, because she's also brilliant at doing marketing and merch and doing special editions and limited editions. She's just a masterclass, just, following her on figuring out how to do a lot of those things. She's really, really good at it. And her newsletter is really engaging. Lauren Beale is also really good with her newsletter. She does market a little bit more in her newsletter than I would, but it's still really engaging and really good. The thing that I really like about her, which is what I put in my second block on my newsletter, is where she's at in her writing process. When I'm doing mine, I will tell them, I'm in chapter 42 of 48 of book 4 of this series. I may give a little, this is where I'm at, or a little quote from one of the characters. I'll even put in maybe a sample paragraph or two and I italicize them and make it stand out a little bit more. I give them where I'm at in the process. And that's not really about saying, hey, go buy this book. I'm just letting them know book 4 is coming. I'm almost done with book 4, or I'm really close to finishing book 4. I'm letting you behind the curtain to see it a little bit. Now, here's the truth. Everybody gather in. Don't tell anybody this. Book 4 was done months before that newsletter went out. So I'm kind of giving we'll say, I don't want to say lying or misleading. Let's say we're creating magic for the reader. But book 4 was already done. So I'm just pulling segments from book 4 that I already know are probably things that are going to resonate with people. So that's what goes into the second section, is an update on where I'm at with something. Below that, I don't do it all the time. It's actually, I'd say, maybe 10% of my emails I'll do a other featured author that's not me, where I'll talk about a book that I read. And here's the other thing. As weird as it sounds, because I do like, I don't crochet, but I'll talk about crocheting. I don't do some of these things, but I will talk about them within my newsletter. I actually do read the books that I promote. So if it's something that I read that was within that genre, within my reader's wheelhouse, something that they're going to enjoy, I will talk about it. That isn't doing the promos from any of the like Book Clicker or any of those. This is just a book that I found that I like, that I'm going to talk about. I don't link it to anything. I probably could set up an Amazon affiliate link and, some of the other like Barnes and Noble affiliate links and do that. I just don't want to say that I did that. And like, you would have to disclose that it's an affiliate link. So I don't put any links to anything. If they want to read it, they can go find it. Everybody knows how to find something on Amazon. It's pretty easy. So if I've given you the title and the author, you can go find it yourself. So that's a feature. And I will put actual promos. Like I do use things like Book Clicker and stuff like that. So I will do promos in there as well. But I don't talk about the book like I've read it, because I haven't. It's a promo. It's a new book coming out, but I'll put those in there from time to time. And that can make decent money too. But I won't do anything that's out of the expectations or out of the lane for my readers. So like, let's say we're dark, spicy, urban romantasy. I'm not going to do Western romance because they're not here for cowboys. So, I make sure that I'm staying mostly in the lane. It may veer a little bit, but not whole cloth. It's kind of like if you're running a contemporary or sweet romance pen name, you're not going to want to put my books as promos because they're basically Pornhub with more plot. So I wouldn't recommend that. That is, something to think about when you're doing those promos. After, putting in occasionally, like I said, like maybe 4 times a year, I'll actually put a graphic for a promo for that pen name's book. And it almost always is about a sale or something big happening with that book. Then I'll put a graphic in there, and it's always a graphic that's a clickable thing because I want them to go to a specific place to get it. So I'll do that there. I end every email with a question, with a call to action. And it's never about like, follow me on Facebook, follow me on TikTok. It's always something like, take a photo of a beverage. This is one of the ones that I do more often than not with different pen names, is I'll take a photo of a beverage out somewhere and I will post that beverage and I'll say, today's my Friday dirty chai. What are you drinking today? Or I'll take a photo of my cat and I'll say, My cat, one of the ones that got the biggest response was my cat climbed into the dryer and wouldn't come out. And I took a photo of it and it was very adorable. He had laid down on the clothes in the dryer and wouldn't come out. And I said, "What's the point of drying clothes when the cat's just going to lay on them? You can
I love that.
you can at
I'm
least wait until they're piled up on the bed." And then I asked them, "Send me your silly cat pics or your cat getting in the way of your chores," type of thing. Then I turn that into a reel for TikTok and Instagram. And then I post.
that. I love that because again, who can resist a cat video or a cat meme? And you're getting them where they're at. So we have a few nonfiction authors in here. How would you apply this to nonfiction books? Because I see some really cool ways of applying it, but it seems to me like these same principles would apply, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Yeah, so I'm in, and I do some nonfiction work, mostly in the political space, and I have a newsletter for that. And I talk about things happening in politics. I talk about different politicians, different situations that may be happening, and just having that conversation. So it's very similar to that. I don't promote candidates or anything like that in the newsletter, so I'm not like telling people how to vote or who they should vote for, but I talk about policies and I talk about how policies are made. I'll link to and I'll take screen caps and create the video of a YouTube video or an image of a YouTube video and put that in there. When I find a video that's really interesting about public policy or about like taxes and things like that, so I'll put that in there. So it's engaging around the, like, if you're a nonprofit, like mine are mine, not nonprofit, nonfiction. My nonfiction books all center around political advocacy. So that's my focus. So I'll just bring in additional new content about that. And one of the things that I'll do in that is my ending question is I talk about things that I've been involved in. Like the first time I went door knocking for a campaign, and it was really cold. It was raining, but it was freezing rain. I was a kid. It was miserable, but I had the best time ever. What was your first time volunteering on a campaign? So it's those sorts of things. More of
It's
a
still
blog post.
bringing personal things related to that topic and related to what you're doing, even, whatever that key topic is of your nonfiction or your publishing house or whatever it is that you're putting out there to the world. It's making that more personal, which I think is a great way to connect with readers and get readers connected. So I like that approach a lot. What are you doing in terms of getting people to those newsletters?
So a lot of that is engaging. That's where social media does become really, really super handy, is it's engaging people there on different platforms that are connected to the different various topics. It's Facebook groups, it's hashtags, those kind of trending things. I also convert my ARC readers from other platforms into newsletter subscribers. And one of the things that the goal of building a community is that your subscribers and your fan base talks about you. So that's organic reach by them talking about you. And then you have to make it super easy for people to join your newsletter. Your website should have a top, bottom, and middle spot for people to join. So at the top in the header, you should have a join my newsletter here. At the very bottom, you should have a box for join my newsletter here. In the middle of your page, you should have a join my newsletter here. That's what having those names and email addresses in your database is what's going to generate the sales down the line, not Amazon. Because you can't count on Amazon's algorithm to tell. Most people don't follow people on Amazon, by the way. It's not as popular as people might think it is. But they're not going to know about it unless they're in your newsletter. Amazon's not going to tell them. There's a lot of noise on TikTok. I see a lot of things, and honestly, maybe I see the same content creator a couple of times a week. Some of them I see daily because, like, I really super engage with their content. So converting those people, getting them to talk about you, giving them reasons to talk about you, the cool thing, that's going to drive newsletter subscribers. Occasionally, I'll do a $5 a day Facebook ad. Not very often. They can be very successful, but that's paired with giving away a magnet related to your series, but not book one. I don't do the book one thing on Facebook ad where I give the first book away for free. I don't do that. I give something else. Or I might do like book one of a previous series from a while ago. I might do that. But yeah, so you have to have that content to give people something. And what I tend to do is a novella that's very on brand for the pen name that gets them to want to read more. But it's a standalone novella that is just by itself that really kind of encapsulates who I am as an author. So you're going to get my writing style, my darkness, my vulgarity, my, spice level, all of those things. You'll get that in that novella and you'll get it for free. And that does boost a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really good, again, like where you're showing how you're doing that. So let's just pretend you're starting a new pen name today. How would you get those people to your newsletter and get that built up?
So I would definitely start by engaging on all of the platforms as a fan of the genre, not as an author. I would start that before anything else. Before I'm ever adding to my bio that I'm an author, I would first start by following other accounts, really diving in on hashtags and keywords on those platforms, following and engaging there, not just with the author, not with the content creator, but also with the people commenting. Comment to them, reply to them. You're going to see a lot of the same people over and over again. And, hit that, go and comment, go and talk to them, create friends on social, be social on social media. So that's like step one is one, you're becoming part of that community on that platform. But the other thing is you are teaching the algorithm what you like and who's similar to you. And by doing that, when you start promoting things, it's going to know who to show that to because it knows who you've been engaging with and who's engaged back with you. I love for people to reply to my comments or to reply to my comment on their comment on other people's content. That was a lot of comments and contents in there. Sorry about that. But that's amazing because that gets weighted so heavily by the algorithms when you have that engagement, especially on something that you didn't create on somebody else's content. If I can get a like from the content creator, that's great, or a reply comment, that's amazing. I try really hard to engage in that community around those content creators. That's step one. Your ARC team as well. You could do the newsletter swaps. It's going to be harder because you don't have anything. So maybe you can do some just promos, but there's a lot of those services that are out there that can help you do that. I wouldn't spend a ton of money on it. I have very little money. And at the beginning of the first pen name, that's when I'm probably going to do the $5 a day Facebook ads. I don't do it on Amazon, but Facebook ads to give away the novella. Now, key thing that I do is I don't do anything until I have lots of content ready. So I have multiple books ready to go for that pen name before I ever start marketing anything. And that's because reader expectations and promises to readers. You never want to miss a deadline. The readers are voracious and hungry for this content. And if there's too long of a gap, they're going to go to somebody else. And this is an analogy that I give, and it may upset people, but you are a drug dealer and you are selling heroin. And if you run out of heroin, they will go somewhere else and buy somebody else's heroin. And once you lose them, they don't come back to you unless that other heroin dealer is gone. So you have to keep supplying them. So one of the things that I do is I always make sure that I have a catalog ready to go before I start with book one. So before I publish book one, if it's a 5 book series, I typically have the entire series ready to go. That way, I'm not going to lose them. I'm always ahead in content. I always have things for them. And in that, I establish what my release schedule is for that pen name. So maybe it's the first of every month, or maybe it's the first of every other month, or maybe it's the 15th of the month, or it's every 45 days, whatever it is. I've established that with my reader base and my subscribers, so they've come to know it. The important thing is you don't screw that up. Because
Yeah.
once those deadlines, once that expectation, there's a little bit there that they're not going to trust you. They're not going to wait. They're not going to pick up book one for a 10 book series if you miss the deadline on 3 books in the last series.
Yeah, that's a really great point. That is really important for people to remember as they're setting up their publishing. Do you have like a newsletter provider that you enjoy or that you think works best? Or what are your recommendations for a newsletter provider?
I actually use multiple providers. I'll just tell you, I use Flowdesk. I don't recommend Flowdesk anymore. The reason why I liked Flowdesk was because it had all of the same features as some of the bigger ones, but it had unlimited emails and unlimited subscribers. That officially went away mid-December. People who are grandfathered in will have it forever, but you can't open a new account and get that. So I don't recommend that now because it's rather expensive. I really like Kit, but that's for my bigger, more established pen names where I can have more features and I can actually sell stuff to other content creators. I can have space for them and get paid pretty well. Their metrics targeting is way advanced in Kit. So there's a lot more you can learn about your readers. Some of the ways that they handle polling, videos, and GIFs, and it is GIF, not GIF, those are better done in Kit because it's just a better platform, but it's also really expensive. So then I have some that are in MailerLite, and then I have other, like there's Email Octopus. I tend to be there starting out because it's really low cost and not a whole lot of technical expertise. For a couple pen names that are kind of grandfathered, older pen names, I use WordPress WP Mailer with an Amazon SES. I don't remember what SES stands for, but it's one of their things that they're on their cloud side that they provide. And that handles all of my emailing. Those are bigger lists, but they're also older. And it costs me pennies to send emails through that system. But it is also like it takes me a little bit longer to set up an email in that because I'm using like a drag and drop system within WordPress. So it's not great, but I've had it forever. It's established. It's cheap for me to use, and I really don't want to muck it up. It doesn't matter what the company is. The thing that matters is can you afford it? And two, put out the content on a regular schedule. That's the commitment that you have to have. I don't care what your platform is. I don't care if it has all the bells and whistles. It doesn't matter if you're paying a ton of money every month for all of the cool features if you're not putting out a newsletter.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm going to go to some of the questions here in the chat. One of them is, can you give a sense of your average turn across all your newsletters? How long do people stay?
Oh, I can't tell off the top of my head, but I don't get a lot of opt outs after the first 30 days. So I would say most people stick around. I do know that one of the things that I looked at was one metric was people who have been on the newsletter list for more than 6 months. I have like a 27% open rate.
Great, great. Is there anything, I have a question here. Can you address style, layout, etc.?
No, that needs to be personal for you and your brand, which hopefully you have a brand kit. for your pen name, because it is a business. You are a business as an author. If you're independently publishing, which clearly you are because you're here, you should have a brand kit. And so your brand kit should have fonts, colors, all of that should be in there. And that's what you want to match. You want to match your brand
Okay,
kit. If you don't
great,
have a brand
great.
kit, get one.
They were asking about how can you chat with everyone, and you said you don't reply to everyone, but do you have any kind of automatic replies set up to their replies at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
And this one I think is interesting, particularly because you have so many pen names and obviously you're not out there as yourself. Will AI dilute the appeal of anonymous authors? I worry more readers might now anonymous equals AI and stick to only known they trust.
Yes, I do think so. And here's the thing. I've had multiple pen names since I first started. Well, not since I first started writing, but let's say around 2001, 2002. I started developing different pen names because I wanted to write in different, actually more darker subjects. And I was knee deep in politics. And I didn't want somebody to show up and be like, hey, this spicy thing, which is still a lot of the reason why I do it today. There was no AI back then. But I wrote a backstory for my pen name, and it's still a thing that I do today. So even with AI has actually made it easier for me to create integrated imaging, if you will. Like, it's the best way. Basically, it helps me maintain the persona of that pen name. So I don't say this is a pen name. I say this is a person. So I'm going to just, this isn't one of my pen names, but I'm going to say Jasmine Smith. Okay. You can look it up. I don't know that that's a real person or a real author. It's not my pen name. Sorry if there is a Jasmine Smith out there that's an author. I apologize. But if Jasmine Smith was my pen name, I would have a whole story for her. I would have images created for her. I approach everything from her perspective. And so it's not anonymous. It's not faceless. There is a person. It's just that person's not real. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah, it does. I think about Carolyn Keene and all the Nancy Drew books. Growing up, I didn't know that Carolyn Keene wasn't a real person. And
Yeah.
so I like that idea a lot.
I actually learned about it from Stephen King, Richard Bachman. I was a huge Stephen King fan when I was young and learned more about Richard Bachman, not knowing that that was Stephen King because I hadn't been clued in. I was pretty young. Then learning, oh wait, okay, because these are two totally different subjects and styles. It's completely different content. I get it, because if I had read this as a Stephen King fan, I'd be upset. But if I read this as, Stephen King's book, as a if I've, Richard Bachman fan, and I read Stephen King's book, I'm also going to be upset because it's dealing with themes that I don't not into. So I understood, oh, you've got to separate. If you want to write about this different thing, you don't want to hurt this audience and hurt your image with them. So you do something different.
Yeah, I a lot. So we're running low on time here. And for those of who maybe missed something, a lot of these questions and things were covered earlier in the talk. Everyone will be getting a replay. And like I said, I will also be posting this to PublishDrive's YouTube channel here in the next week or so. If not already subscribed to PublishDrive on YouTube, please do so. Heather, is there any last thoughts or pieces of advice you'd like to share with everyone today?
80/20. We talk a lot about 80% doing, 20% of the work, the common thing that's out there. 80% of your newsletter should be about engaging and connecting with the fan. Only 20%, and honestly less than that, should be about selling your book. That's the most important thing. Creating those connections, having that engagement, you know, being able to connect with them and get them to feel a way about the brand that you've created. That's what's going to drive sales and success. Not hitting them over the head every day saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. That is the quickest way. And you'll notice talking about my newsletter, buy my book, if in there, is towards the bottom, never the top. I don't want to turn them off immediately when they get the. Also, I don't remove people from newsletter from not opening, because I believe every newsletter is a chance for to re-engage. So I rob them of that opportunity to be able to re-engage just because they didn't open. Also, open rate is mostly accurate, but not completely, because I have it blocked on all of my emails. So I will always look like somebody who never opens an email, but I did. So, it's not a great idea to remove people for that. That's it.
All right.
Hope
That's
it
great.
helps.
Yes. Yes. This was really helpful. Thank you again for coming. I know this was really a lot of information. So watch replay and we look forward to everyone here for some more in the future. So thank you again and have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.